The 1937 Levi's 501 is the first in many ways. It's at the cusp between historic and classic. But is it the pair for you?
Denim Denim.
Hi, and welcome to Denim Denim, the channel where we explore the Levi's vintage clothing collection. Today, one of the most requested videos of all time. The 1937 501 jean. But first, take the power into your own hands and hit that subscribe button. The 1937s are the first to adorn the coveted Big E red tab. Something that Levi's jeans didn't have before, but that have had in every pair since. Of course, the Big E ran from 37 36, all the way until 71. That's 35 years. Then it was Small E for 45 years until 2016. And then they reissued Big E since. The other Big E with a Y thing about 1937s is the first covered rivets. You still have the rivet in there, but they're covered. Not exposed, like we see here. And not yet something like bar tacks, where we see in modern pairs. But these rivets are murder on the furniture, and 37s are the first pair to cover them up to protect it for a little longer.
But so far, this information is false. True, this is the first pair of the LVC 501 years collection to offer these, but historically speaking, these are both features that began in 1936. And we can see this in the 1936 506 Type 1 trucker jacket, with being the first with the red tab. And in 1936, historically, Levi's offered the 501 with exposed rivets and the 501 XXC, the C, of course, standing for covered rivets. There's so many things to talk about the 1937s being the first. Should note that the red tab is blank on the backside and it says Levi's on the front. It doesn't change until 1955. There's also the removal of the suspender buttons, but not to fret, Levi's had at the time introduced press-on suspender buttons you can buy in a box, and this is an item I'm really hoping they bring back soon. To commemorate and express their joy for the new covered rivets, Levi's introduces the flasher. And for myself, growing up with a pair of Levi's, ripping this thing off was like devirginizing it. That's how you first made the first step to breaking in your pair of Levi's. Now I collect them as sacred objects. The cinch is still there, although it's a different cinch. Probably the prettiest one out there. It's got copper spikes and a steel background. Not as strong as the 19th century, but stronger than early 20th century. Ever since belt loops were added, cutting off the cinch became an in-style thing throughout these eras, and a lot of the vault pieces we find have them already removed. Now just take a minute and look at some of these historic pairs with their features from a real pair of 1937s. Okay, so check this out. This is why you watch this channel. This is a hidden feature within Levi's jeans around this time. 1937 historically is when they started making the V thread. This is a diagonal thread that goes from the top button of the fly diagonally down towards the middle of the pants. And we see these in LVC pairs from 1944 all the way until 1955. But then in the 60s, it changes to a double vertical stitch and stays there since. Now for the goodies in the package. If you buy rigid, you'll get the guarantee ticket and the flasher. You'll also get the letter no matter which pair you buy, as long as you're buying them new. Here's the letter if you want to hear it. To the owner of this 501 jean, as America slowly began to emerge from the depths of the Great Depression, the 501 jean of 1937 evolved into a mix of old and new. 1937 was a challenging year for America. Work was still scarce. Many Americans had lost their farms and homes. Ever the optimists, the people of San Francisco persevered. The iconic Golden Gate Bridge was finally completed in 1937. And like the Levi's 501 jean, it was held together with rivets. 1.2 million of them. The 1937 501 jean still came with a cinch back, but the suspender buttons on the waistband were removed. Press-on buttons were given to customers who just couldn't live without them. On the right back pocket, the 501 jean was adorned with the now famous red tab. First introduced in 1936, this device was meant to differentiate Levi's jeans from competitors in the marketplace. And in response to customers who complained that their jeans were scratching their furniture and saddles, Levi Strauss & Company began sewing the back pockets so they covered the rivets. To emphasize this point, they introduced the first pocket flasher, made in the now famous salmon color and placed right on the back pocket. The flasher had arrows pointing to the corners of the pockets with the words, "The rivet's still there."
The fit. Levi says they run true to size. I think that is a fair assessment, but I'm a 31 and I'm wearing 32s. Remember, this cinch gets you half a size, so at least upsize. If you're in between sizes, go up that one size. If you're going to do a shrink from rigid, remember how you're doing it if you want 1 or 2 sizes bigger. You can always wear a belt with them, but don't go tight. Don't go tighter than your true size with them. I think they run tighter than the 55s, definitely looser than a 66, close to an 84, but with a higher rise. I like to wear mine at my waist and about an inch below my navel. Still gives me a little bit of crotch room, about a centimeter of extra crotch room, and I don't feel like Humpty Dumpty. One of the really cool things about the 1937 501s is that they have a matching jacket. It's the Type 1 506. Of course, the 1955s have the Type 2 506. The 1880s come with the pleated blouse, and the 1915s with the sack coat could go together, I guess. But this is the best match you're ever going to find. 55s with the Type 2, the 37s with the 36 Type 1 jacket. They just go together. Blends. It's an outfit. I'm not saying Canadian tuxedo style, but you know, we're going close to that. Don't Bing Crosby this. Don't Bing Crosby this. We're getting there. Already done that video. Maybe.
Now for all the cool variations they offer. So just like most of the pairs, we have rigid. And this is a good pair to wear rigid. It comes in a dark blue and wears very straight-legged with a little rounded of a top. It's great for showing off the stitching, cuffing up the ankles, and showing off your selvage line. Sproul is slightly distressed, and Calming Surf is a lot lighter of a blue, very worn out. Indigo Hearts have a lot of patchwork done on the crotch and ankles. They have the cinch cut off. They're a limited edition pair, but out of 1,500 isn't that special. In Little High is a severely distressed pair with lots of holes and patchwork in the knees. Shock Top are a distressed pair with a lot of fading, but no holes or rips. It still has the cinch intact. The Big Blue Customize have a few holes with some fading, white lines ripping through, spots as stains, and a cut-off cinch. Speed Run are a light pair with no distressing marks, just light blue faded patch, and they still have a nice decent hem with a cinch. LVC are a really fun pair. There's a knee rip that's unpatched, a butt rip that is patched, and they are unhemmed. They're pretty easily available if you want to find a pair, and I think they're one of the best that explains the Depression era jeans that we're expecting to see from the 1930s. Really worn out and used. I'd say if you're on the taller side and you buy these, they're almost like a long pair of shorts for you. Otherwise, if you're average height, you can just kind of roll them up so that you show off the selvage line with a roll or a cuff, or just wear them unhemmed and let it flare out. There are two vault pieces for 1937 501's. They both came out in 2007, fall-winter catalog. There are the Haciendas and the Timbermans. Vault pieces, of course, are these items that were reclaimed by Levi's from customers who had used them, passed them on, and eventually they went to auction and are now in the vault in San Francisco to be researched and exhibited. All of the destruction marks that happened on this pair of jeans are recreated in the vault piece recreations. The Haciendas are unhemmed with the covered rivets almost being exposed and a few patched holes in the thigh. The unhemming is severe on this pair to where they're fraying out with lots of white threads running loose. The Timbermans are a slightly cleaner pair with more folding marks of destruction and a cutoff cinch and hem marks. And from the fall-winter 2014 catalog comes the most wild limited edition pairs they have ever made, the Banner pairs, celebrating a Banner ad and having the jeans printed with the Banner colors and iconography all over them. There are two different variations for each size, and each size has the features running along it in different areas. They also did make a Type 1 506 jacket to match it, which I love about this pair. It has the matching jacket to go with it, and here you go. It is insane. And even a duffel bag as an extra item.
Pretty much to conclude, the 1937s are an almost essential pair to building your 501 collection. You get some of the great historical features like cinch, leather patch, but none of the messy stuff like exposed rivets that will scratch your furniture or suspender buttons that aren't really usable for every pair and that are just awkward to use unless you're using suspenders. Again, you get the classic features such as covered rivets, a red tab. It looks like a modern pair when you wear them, yet they're a little lighter, just like the old pairs. You get the best of both worlds. I truly recommend a pair and just finding your right size and wearing them in like you want to. They're adventurous enough, but not in a costume way like some of the older pairs might be. If you got a pair of 1937s, you want to know how to cut the cinch and use it, you want to know how to shrink to fit, check out the Care Tips playlist. If you want to check out any other 501 gear, I've got plenty posted and more coming. I'm Den. This has been Den and Denim. Thanks for watching. Give a subscribe. It really helps out. See you next week.